أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان، خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجن، ولعن الله أعداءهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. صلوات على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to continue to fast and to reach His proximity during this blessed month of His. We ask Allah, we beg Allah to accept our amal, and we ask Allah to protect us from being those individuals who don't gain a single inch towards Him in this month. Alaykum salam. As we talked about last night, very briefly, we have a certain topic in mind for these lectures. I'm with you, inshallah, for 9 nights from today on. And we mentioned that we'll be looking at the topic of the elements of an Islamic family. Given the fact that we have some known issues within our Islamic communities, given the fact that there are some severe domestic issues that we have, our divorce rates are up, unfortunately. Our children are moving away from the idea of marriage. Our parents are losing control of their children. Our kids have no respect for their parents. The entire family structure itself is self-destructing in front of us. And this has to be addressed. And in this month of worship, in this month of forgiveness and mercy, it is the best ideal time to talk about such issues. So inshallah, in these next 9 nights that I'm with you, we have broken down our lectures into 3 subtopics. Each subtopic having 3 lectures to it. Initially, in the first 3 nights, including tonight, we'll look at the concept of an Islamic family. What does Islam call a family? And then we'll talk about husband and wife relations. We'll talk about the idea of mawaddat and rahmah amongst a husband and a wife. The very famous verse that we see in a lot of wedding cards from Surah Rum, ayat number 21, when Allah calls the idea of marriage His ayats. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. From our signs, Allah says, from our signs, is that we have created from you and for you spouses. Why? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So you could find in them sukoon, itminan. And then we placed, وَجَعَلَّ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. We placed between them mawaddat and rahmah. Love is not what mawaddat is. And we'll talk about that in 2 days. Mawaddat is something above love. And rahmah. And in this concept of zawj, there are signs for who? لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. For those who ponder and contemplate on the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the ideal, the mafhum of mawaddat and rahmah? We'll discuss that inshallah in the first 3 lectures. The next set of 3 lectures will talk about parent and child relationships. Tarbiyat al-awlad, raising our kids, especially Eastern parents raising Western kids. It's a battle that all of you are facing. Whether you are the child or the parent, it's a battle nonetheless. And what is the Islamic perspective on that? What is our take as parents? What is our take as a child as well? We'll look at that as well. The last 3, we will look at common problems within families and offer solutions, inshallah. Our last discussion, of course, is the Jashan and the Waladat Ba'Sa'adat of Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. And we'll dedicate that discussion to him, of course. Tuesday, of course, being the wafat of Bibi Khadija, salamullah alayha, and salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. And we'll discuss within the idea of family life a little bit about her as well, inshallah. So to begin off, to talk about the Islamic family system, I want to speak a little bit about the idea of qurbatan ilallah. Everything we do, these difficult fasts that we do, the salat that we do, the ibadah that we do, the worship that we do, the patience and forbearance we have, all of it is for one reason: to gain qurbat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We end every niyat we have by saying what? Qurbatan illallah. What does it mean to gain qurbat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And how do we know if actually what we're doing is correct? God forbid that we spend the next 30 days in these difficult 16-hour fasts, and the only thing that we've gained is that we've lost 5 to 10 pounds. Otherwise, spiritually, we've gained nothing. And we believe that we are moving towards Allah, when in actuality, we are stuck exactly where we are. Are there signs, are there things we should look for inside of us to see, am I getting that closest to Allah or not? Or has this been a hunger strike for 30 days, nothing else? I've taken my steps necessary to break my habits, to fight shaitan, to fight the shahwa inside of me. Am I able to measure whether or not these were successful steps or not? And we do that for everything else. Everything else that we do, we have measuring sticks to see, am I reaching my goal or not? Someone who drives, let's say, from here to New York, for example, if someone is asking you how close you are, you say, I have no idea how close I am to my goal. They'll say, look, you have to find out where you are, GPS, blah, 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 this and that. Yesterday when I came from LaGuardia, I was getting text messages every half hour. How close are you? How close are you? How close you are? Very nervous people yesterday. I said, don't worry, I'm in the car with Owen, he'll get me there. And Owen really treated his car like a go-kart. He was going in and out, in and out, in and out. I got here with 5 minutes before the Adhan, alhamdulillah. But I knew I was half an hour away, 20 minutes away, 15 minutes away. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do we know, is there distance between me and Allah? Have I gained one step towards Allah, or God forbid, am I regressing away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A lot of you work, mashallah. You come home from the center sometimes at 11, let's say, if you stick around afterwards. Some of you don't go to sleep until 12. You wake up at 3, you go back to bed at 4, wake back up at 7, go to work for 8 hours in the halat of fasting. Come home, spend time with your children, come to the center every single night. If it's not bad enough that you're hungry, you have to listen to me before you eat. That's punishment enough. And all of that you do, and God forbid you do it without any qurbata ilahi. So initially, let's talk about tonight, ayah, are we anywhere close to Allah or not? And what are the signs? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala I only have about 20 minutes, so please stay with me, inshallah. You see, Allah's Asma al-Husna, His 99 names, are in direct relation with the concept of qurbatan illallah. Let me explain that for a moment. We've seen these names, have we not? We have frames, we have pictures, we have, online they have these nice images, we have 99 names of Allah, all of them have different qualities, all of them are part of Allah's Zat. All these names are part of Allah. Allah is that encompassing name that includes all of His different sifats, whether it's the 99 names that are His khas names, or the 1,000 sifat that we read of Joshan al-Kabir on the nights of Qadr, Or as Imam Ali says in Khutbah Awwal of Nahj al-Balagha, that there is his sifats that are la mahdud. You can try to count them, put a number on them, but really Allah's sifats cannot be counted. All of these are not separate from Allah's essence. Let me give you an example for my youth to understand this. We are not like that. We as His makhluk are not like that. We are different. Our qualities are separate from us. Allah is not like that. For example, if you were to say Ali is tall, Ali is happy, Ali is a believer. Three different qualities, Ali remains the same. Correct? If you take out the idea that Ali is tall, or that Ali, God forbid, no longer is a believer, that belief is out, but Ali remains. Ali is different and his qualities are also different. But when you say Allah is Rahim and Rahman, Ghafoor and Kareem and all of these different qualities, you can't separate Allah from His Rahmat. You can't separate Allah from His Sadiq or Allah from His Ghafoor. When you say Allah, you include all of these names that we know to be His Asma al-Husna. Many people ask us, can God do injustice? We say that, look, we can't say God can't do anything. God is Qadir. He's all powerful. The moment that we said that God can't do anything, we've made Him powerless. So the question is incorrect. God can do whatever He wants to do. But the moment that God does injustice, He's no longer God. Remember that. The question is, can salt be sweet? Salt can be sweet. You add sugar to it, it's sweet. But it can't be called salt anymore. The essence of salt is in its saltiness. The essence of sugar is in its sweetness. You add salt to sugar, it becomes something else. You cannot call it sugar. Allah cannot do dhulm. If He does dhulm, He's not Allah anymore. So His 99 names are directly connected to Him and His essence. Now, one clear indication that we are gaining qurbata illallah is the idea of us becoming manifestations of the names of Allah. Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salatu. He has a very beautiful, very short, very simple tradition that drives the Wahhabis crazy. What doesn't, right? He says, Nahnu Asma al-Husna. We are the Asma al-Husna. And right away, like they love to do, they label shirk on us to believe that we believe that these people are at the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you go into the shad of this hadith, of course not. He's not saying that we are at Allah at a vertical level the exact same as Allah. No, we are the tajalliyat and the manifestations of Allah's sifat on this earth. If you want to see Allah's Ghafoor, Rahman, and Rahim, look at us. If you want to see Allah's Sadiq, look at us. If you want to see Allah being Alim and Qadir and Hayy, look at us. We are the shadow, the light, the reflection of His Asma al-Husna on this earth. We equally have to become the shadow and the light of Allah's sifat on this earth. And that's how we know that we are gaining any qurba to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is nifaq. It's a very dangerous word I'm using. It's hypocrisy for us to beg Allah for forgiveness and not be forgiven to those around us. It is nifaq to ask Allah, you are Kareem, you are Jawad, you are generous. You are generous when it comes to our families and our wives. We are bakhil, we are kanjus. We are tight, as they say, tandas, as they say in Farsi. It is not faith to ask Allah that, Allah, you are satarul uyub. You hide my defects, but every chance we get, we expose the defects of others. This is not qurbatan illallah. We beg Allah for one sifat, we show that sifat in our life to Allah as well. So provided that we are on this path where we are adopting Allah's qualities one by one by one, we are taking very minute steps towards qurbatan illallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala. And this is what's called a tawheedi lifestyle. Tawheed we believe to be La ilaha illallah. It's not. That's a very basic verbal expression of Tawheed. Tawheed is the harmonizing of the different aspects of your life into one. For example, it's an example I often give. You see, we live multiple lives. One person lives multiple lives. And for every life we have a different set of akhlaq, a different set of behavior, a different set of rules. When you come through those doors into Astaana-e-Zehra, you are one way. You dress a certain way, your akhlaq is a certain way, your behavior is a certain way, even your libas is a certain way. My father marhum would never allow me to wear certain things to the masjid. You guys think that you have it bad? My father wouldn't allow me to wear jeans, a t-shirt. He wouldn't allow me to have anything in my mouth. Candy, gum, nothing. No hats, nothing. No texting. No selfies either. Nothing. He was very strict. Because he said that the masjid is a place of respect and izzat. This farsh is the farsh ada of the fadilat of the Ahlul Bayt. You don't walk in wearing anything and everything that you want. Sometimes when I see these young guys, I'm sorry, don't hate me, backward hats and big jeans and cut off t-shirts, I just get a little bit itchy. And I walk past them, I say, Allah, may Allah protect them, inshallah. So one life is this masjid. When you go home after this masjid, that's a second life. You take off the mask of Astaana-e-Zehra, you put on a life of home. Your libas is different at home. You go home, you change, you wear your comfortable libas. Your akhlaq is different, your behavior, good or bad. It's different. It could be that you are a saint in Astaana-e-Zehra, but you are a zalim in your house. You are a pious man, God-fearing man in these four walls. In your bayt, in your home, your family doesn't see you with good intentions. The third life is your work life. We go home again, certain libas, certain akhlaq, with Bob and Jim, we're a certain way. We speak a different language, different akhlaq. When we are by ourselves, behind closed doors, 12 o'clock at night, we are different. Our libas is different, our akhlaq is different, our behavior is different, our thoughts are different. On social media, online, my youth, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, we are different. Sometimes when I sneak into these Twitter accounts and I spy on the kids in Toronto and I look at the way they tweet, I'm shocked. This is a kid who read Dua Kamel beautifully last night, brought me to tears. He's using obscene language on Twitter, let's say. Posting pictures of places he shouldn't be at, let's say, for example. Right? We live multiple different lives with multiple different masks on. That's not Tawheed. Tawheed is that the way you are in this bayt of Allah, you are also in your bayt as well, in your house as well. The akhlaq you show here amongst the mu'mineen, you show amongst the non-Muslims as well. We are so forgiving sometimes for others outside the center, we are not forgiving for those inside of our own center. Someone wrongs us outside in our work, we forgive them because who knows, maybe they have my salary in their hands. They say, I'm sorry, Muhammad. They say, it's okay, don't worry about it. Somebody wrongs us here and we're gone. We'll never see him again. Okay? What happened? One person wronged you, forgive the brother. And then we go home and say, Ya Ali, Ya Azim, Ya Ghafur, Ya Rahim. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. That's not the way that Tawheed is. Where you are, wherever you are a mu'min. If you are online, you're a mu'min. If you're at home with your wife and kids, you're a mu'min. If you're alone at 12 o'clock at night, the world's asleep, it's you and your iPad, you're a mu'min. Not that the iman switch goes off and on, off and on. We're going to Astaana-e-Zehra, wait, turn it on. Let's go. I have my mask on. Because God forbid if I was ever to catch you at work or at home or look outside your window at 12 o'clock at night, I might be shocked to what I see. You might shock yourself. The essence of Tawheed is the harmonizing of the different avenues of your life into one life. Take everything into one. We negate everything. La ilah. We negate first. Illallah. Then we accept Allah as one. We negate all our different lives. We take that one life into one path. This is what's called قربة إلا الله. صلوا على محمد وعلى آله. Is this a difficult thing to achieve? Of course it is. Is it an overnight solution? Of course not. It's a lifelong battle. And the best battlefield to win this battle against shaitan is inside of your homes. This is where you can really see for yourself how you are. It's one thing for me to see all of you maybe once a year, twice a year, once every 2 years, and call you a mu'min, call you a mu'mina, call you a believer, call you a Shia. It's one thing where your spouse and your kids who see you 24/7 call you a mu'min or a mu'mina. Wow. It's one thing where your fellow community members who see you maybe once a week on Thursdays say, yeah, he's a pious man. It's one thing where the wife of that pious man says, yes, he is indeed a pious man. The arena for which we can gain qurbatan illallah is the home environment. That's where our asli comes out. That's where we enter our home and we are exactly how we want to be. And if that is a mu'min, then that's true iman. That's why these discussions are very, very important. It's not just about raising your kids and being a good husband and buying your wife flowers. That's beyond, that's a bare minimum. It's about finding tawheed within your spouse and your children. That's why this institution of marriage is not done simply by the fact that one man wanted another woman and vice versa. This was made by Allah. Adam and Hawa came down as a zoj on earth, as a couple on earth. Islam respects institutional marriage so much so that if two Hindu individuals who are married convert to Islam and become Shia together, Islam, nowhere in our faith does that say they have to recite their nikah all over again. We respect marriage and the family life like no other institution does. Why? It is a mahallay sukun for us. The word for home in Arabic is what? Maskan. It's in Farsi as well. Maskan is mahall sukun. And they call your bait, your home, your maskan. You should feel sukun in your home. You should feel contentment in your home. It's not in your home. If the fact is that you avoid home like no other, you'd rather be anywhere else but home, there's a problem inside your house. There is. Many of us don't come home till 11 o'clock at night and we leave bright and early at 7 a.m. Because the mahal, the environment inside our home is tense. Doesn't give me sukoon. We don't like the weekends because I'm forced to be at home. It's a problem that we have. Because when we look at the idea of itminan inside the Quran, there are two levels of itminan and sukoon. One is batini, one is zahiri. The batini itminan that we have, the sukoon that we have inside of us, comes nothing but from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. The dhikr of Allah brings about itminan in the qalb. That's good enough. What about the apparent sukoon, the apparent itminan, that contentment we have from the outside? The Quran describes three levels of outer contentments. Zaman, makan, and makin. The Quran says, can I ask you all to please move a little bit forward as you're saying salawat ala Muhammad wa ala The Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَكُمْ لَيْلًا لِتَسْكُنُوا فِيهِ. Allah created the night for you, the layl for you. Why? So you can find contentment and rest in that night. Right? Our youth were up all night, asleep all day. It's going to catch up to you eventually. The night was made to sleep. So outer contentment, outer rest, outer sukoon, in terms of zaman, comes from the layl, the night, the Quran says. Another ayah talks about makan, your home, is also an outer source of contentment for you. Wallahu ja'alakum min buyutikum sakana. Allah created for you from your home, your own home, buyutikum, your home, what? Sakana, sukoon, contentment. When all the pressures, all the stress of the outside world is done, you enter your home, you should feel relaxed and sukoon, like a king does in his palace. not a slave in the palace. And then of course, the ayat I read for you before is that the other one is makin. Makin is spouse. So time, place, and spouse. These three aspects the Quran says are an outer contentment for us. When the Quran says that from our signs we created you for you spouse for what? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. That in this spouse you should find contentment and serenity and sukoon. He or she should be your best friend. It sounds cliche. He or she should be the outlet of all your problems. When no one else listens to you, your spouse is there to listen to you. When no one else speaks to you, your spouse is there to speak to you. When you have no avenue of hope, your spouse is an avenue of hope. The question is that the case or not? The question is that when you send your wife, let's say 2 months to India to go visit her family, that's when you feel sukoon. That's when you feel azad. And it's funny, it's a joke, but is there some truth to that or not? Because we get caught up in the ideals and the small parts of marriage, not in the overall movement of marriage. You see, there's a hadith by our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says that when you look up to the stars at night, there are some stars that are brighter than other stars. And your eyes automatically go towards those bright stars. He says the angels equally look down onto earth and see that certain homes are brighter than certain homes are. And those homes where there is respect amongst the family members, there is love, there is compassion, there's dialogue, there's communication, there's respect, that those homes are brighter than other homes are. Where there are homes where people live in their rooms, behind closed doors. What your son is doing behind his closed door all day long, you have no idea. The father and son don't talk to each other until something is missing. Where are my keys? Where'd you put my socks? Why does the car have no gas in it? Where's my cell phone? That's the base of our conversations inside of our homes. Chalo, sojao, khajao, that's it. That's it. Communication is not there. Why? Because we either believe that communication isn't there and not supposed to be there. We are afraid as parents, and I'm with you, I have 2 daughters, I'm with you. We are afraid that if I befriend my son too much, I'll cross that line of respect. So I'll keep you at arm's length and distance, just like my father kept me at arm's length and distance. I remember I had a conversation with my dad, this was years ago. We sat down and I was very frank with him about certain things, and he smirked, he smiled. He said, you know, I would never have the himmat to say the things you're saying to me, to my father. I wasn't disrespectful. I was just declaring the things that I wanted from him. I said, Dad, this is what I need from you. He said, we wouldn't have the himmat to even say boo to our father. And that's one extreme if you ask me. That's one extreme. That's the parenting in the East. And maybe that works there. It doesn't work here. The other extreme, of course, is that the father and the son are so close to each other, there is no line where the son starts and the father finishes. So in front of your father, you know, you'll sit with your legs out. You'll walk in front of your father. You'll scream at your father. You'll call your father a loser in front of others. It's all fun. It's disrespectful though. And that's the other extreme. So where there is a house of communication where you are talking to each other, then that communication, that home is brighter in the eyes of Allah than others are. You know, we have a hadith that says, and this is often taken incorrectly, a house that has a dog in it, the angels will not come to that house. You've heard that hadith before. And we believe that sometimes it only resort to a limited or a physical dog. If you have a dog named Sparky inside your house, the angels won't come inside that house. It's not about Sparky. In the hadith, a dog is symbolized as a man who's full of anger. A man who has no control of his ghadab is a man who's been equated to a barking dog. After a while, when the dog barks so much, those around him ignore the dog. Oh, he's barking, let him bark, that's all he does. It's okay, he barks. He'll be quiet, he'll start up again. Oh, dad's yelling, okay, it's okay, he yells, that's all he does. Let him yell, it's okay. So in that house where there is constant barking happening, I don't mean it in disrespect, by the way. Angels don't come, mercy doesn't come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not see that house as a bright star. Where there's forgiveness and love and compassion, where there is a meal time, where we actually sit down at one table and eat together. Where there is, let's say, Jamaat prayers inside the house, where the father is leading, the mother is behind, the son is reading dua afterwards. These are beautiful things. These are things where we can expect now mercy to come and be revealed onto our house. Otherwise, the situation at home sometimes is not the case. And that communication starts from the husband and the wife. And we'll expand that tomorrow, inshallah. We'll look at the idea of the husband and the wife relations. Islam has one way of looking at it, and we, as South Asians, have a different way altogether. It starts from the top. If your kids aren't close to you, if your children have no respect for you, if there's no harmony and no love and no compassion inside of that house, examine the relationship between you and your spouse. And ask yourself, are we strong? Because that trickles down onto the kids. When they see mommy disrespecting daddy and daddy disrespecting mommy and fighting and constant argument in front of the kids, I've actually seen cases, because we do some counseling in Toronto, I've seen cases in front of me, I've been inside the house where the parents are there and the child is there, and the mother says to the child, which one do you choose, me or your dad? This is not a respectful, harmonized home. You have to fix the top, and that will trickle down into the children. Inshallah, we'll spend that tomorrow, inshallah. Like I said, tomorrow, the next day, we'll look at husband and wife relations in Islam. It's very, very important that all of you understand, even if you've been married for 50 years, or just got married 50 days ago. This lesson is good for all of us. I'm 10 years into my marriage, I always need help, as my wife would say, on how to be a good husband. And so do all of us. And don't think I'm only going to pick on the husbands. My sisters on that side of the partition, I have a good lecture for you as well, inshallah. So please, make sure that when you come, you bring your wife. Yes, the loudest salawat of the night was for that point, inshallah. I'll try to be fair, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel al-ibad, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this month of forgiveness, in the month of mercy, in the month of barakat, we ask you, Allah, to forgive our amal, give us tawfiq not to repeat our sins, and accept our amal to be the avenue of qurbatan illallah, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.